guys, welcome back to our channel. So today we're going to be having a discussion kind of, and Dustin's going to be leading that, about spirituality, religion, and like abuse of those things.
I believe sometimes in churches and Christianity, how we're diving into our spirituality and defining our religion. Sometimes we get into church hurt, or maybe it's just one person and going into spirituality or spirituality. So without giving any Christianese on it, how we can define spirituality is like who we are on the inside, and it actually forms our ethics, our beliefs, our views, and eventually makes us like who we are as a person, as a human being. But however, as Christians, we reference those things to our relationship with God, right?
Yeah.
So how spirituality plays a part in our lives as Christians is not what we believe, but who we believe, which is Jesus Christ. If we believe in Him, by His Word, He says that He gives His Spirit to us and works in us and is in us. And that's how we know that we're children of God, because it is the Spirit that convicts us. It's the Spirit who guides us in our lives to make us more like Christ, which as Christians, our salvation isn't just a one-time thing. It is a process. That's why Paul says we actually have to work out our salvation and be transformed by the renewing of our minds. And Jesus says that
I don't believe in that, like, once saved, always saved. You can still fall back into temptation. And you can't go to heaven while in sin.
I saw an evangelist says the only way to heaven is perfection, which I don't know if you know this, guys, but I'm not perfect. It's with Jesus in us, with His Spirit in us, that makes us perfect, which that's actually sanctification. That's the growing process of being more like Jesus, because only Jesus lived on this earth and He was in the world but without sin, and only through Him we can be sinless. And religion is not a bad thing. It's really not. Religion does play a part in Christianity. I believe it was in the book of James where he said, "This is perfect religion. Tend to the widows and the orphans and not be like the world."
Now, a lot of people get like the bad rep with religion from, like, in the Gospels, the religious leaders. They were more about themselves, getting the glory for themselves, letting other people see them pray than praying in private. That's why God says to pray in private.
We're actually trying to like define it, and how we can define it, it's group of people coming together and sharing faith, sharing teachings and doctrines and culture together.
Fellowship.
Yeah, fellowship.
I mean, that's what the early church was. They were gathering and just praying, breaking bread, which is all a part of religion.
Right. So religion is not a bad thing, guys. Spiritual abuse. I feel this heavy on me. Spiritual abuse can come in many forms, either through your religious leader, a pastor, a priest, or not even that high of a category. It could be a group leader, going down to your siblings, parents. It can come in all categories. But how we can abuse someone else's spirituality, everything that we listed, the well-being of a person.
By like tearing each other down, is that what you're getting at?
Exactly.
Yeah. So when I think about spiritual abuse, I think of like the people who say they're not Christian but they're spiritual. Like, I'm thinking of like the people with like the crystals, like manifesting and all that stuff. Like, that's spiritual abuse to me.
What you're saying is like when someone gathers people around and saying, "Oh, this is what we believe, this what works," and
when
we should
when it's only getting worse, because it's what it is. It's when you're manifesting demons to tell you your identity, and it's only getting worse. Like when you burn sage and stuff like that, it's only opening the door to more demons.
Exactly.
To me, that's what I think of when I think of spiritual abuse. But what you said is true too.
So spiritual abuse can come when someone is tearing down someone's well-being, even through manipulation. Which that's basically is a manipulation tactic. So we can just believe a leader based on what works.
I got the tea for the religious talk.
Religious abuse can come when the leader of the religious authority in that church or place of worship manipulating either the doctrine or just straight up not teaching it at all. Or it can happen when that authority figure uses their authority for personal gain.
Does it even have to be authority? Can it even be like the church people?
Yeah, and that's why I said when the teaching's not even being taught. Because a lot of times what happens is, say a pastor or a priest doesn't teach about hell or damnation. Well, then the people of that church doesn't understand what hell or damnation is.
Or you could be talking about those confusing type of churches that believe in love, just love, and or the ones that believe in like that every branch of religion is right, which they all contradict, so that doesn't, and then their church people are confused. Like, so when people ask, like, what do you believe? They're like, we believe in love. And you're like, so you ask them questions and they're like, we believe in love. Like, that's their only statement.
But who is love? Yeah. Or this new age movement with pastors who believe that LGBTQ is not a sin. Read the book of Leviticus.
Well, they say, like, it doesn't say anything about homosexuality. Say that was true. Say it didn't say that direct word. It still says, like, man, do not lay with man.
Exactly.
Which it still says. So what if it doesn't say that direct word? That's what homosexuality is.
And a lot of people say that book in particular is about the Levitical priests' laws and customs, which it's not. It was actually God who was speaking to Moses and telling the people of Israel, the foreigners of Israel, and the priests what to do in these customs. That's why there was so many customs.
Back to what we were saying earlier, other people in the church can have religious abuse too. I think that's why a lot of people leave the church, is because someone hurt them. That's what we were saying about church hurt earlier. Like, someone went about sharing God the wrong way. Like, they went from a place of judgment without coming from a place of love, or they just showed them something that was wrong that just drew them away. That wasn't from a loving place.
If we understand that we are sinners and we're working this thing out, but a lot of times is we become narrow vision and forgot who we were without Christ. That doesn't mean like go back before Christ. I'm just saying that we need to take inventory.
We also need to just step into other people's shoes instead of coming from a judgmental place, because we're called to like love on each other. It says mourn with each other, right? We need to be more thoughtful when we speak to other people when they're going through a rough time. We need to be more thoughtful about how we're approaching the situation.
Now, you can't love God and hate His church.
The church leaders should be explaining a little bit more about why they believe what they believe, and I think that would help ease a lot of people's questions. Those people should just have a meeting with their pastor, their priest, whatever, so they can ask those questions and get the answers they're looking for. Right. Instead of just like leaving altogether.
Like I said too, I've been through a lot of churches where also they said that this is right, no, this way's right, this way's right, this way's right, where it came from a judgmental place instead of a teaching place.
I just don't like when pastors, preachers, like dog on another church and like making their teaching sound better. Like, let's explain the why behind it and like the evidence.
I was asked this question. This person knew that I've been through so many denominations and churches, and they came up and asked me, why does God have all these churches? I don't really know the answer to it, but I believe it's because we're people with diversity, because we have different beliefs, we have different ethics.
I don't think, even in your church, like, okay, you believe their core beliefs, right? I don't think everyone will believe the exact same thing down to a T, because the way they relate to God is different. I was telling Dustin, we're different denominations, right? But we're Christian, and we agree with a lot of the same things. So I was speaking to this little girl, and we're both Catholic, and I had asked her something, can't remember what it was, but something about Christianity. And she's like, oh, I'm Catholic. I'm like, yeah, but that's a branch of Christianity. It's a form of Christianity. And she was like, I'm Catholic. And she's young, like, she knows what her parents teaches her, what the church teaches her, but she doesn't know, like, the why behind everything. Because they're little. They can't grasp that quite well yet. But I think that would be an important conversation for, like, church leaders and parents to have, the why behind everything. But I was like, that is a form of Christianity. And she was like, oh, well, yeah, but, like, I'm Catholic. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, girl.
There was this friend who asked this little boy if he was Christian. He said, I'm Pentecostal. Being a Christian is that we're Christ-centered, we're Christ-defined, Christ-minded.
The early church, before there was the word Christianity, it was the way, followers of the way, because God is the way, the truth, and the life.
That's a religious abuse.
Well, there have been literally instances of abuse in all the churches. Pastors being unfaithful. There's instances of, like, priests abusing little children, and that does come to light, and they do get, fired. But, like, there has been some instances that people have covered it up, and that's not good.
In seminary, I had to study that for church history. Come to find out, in Protestant areas of religion, where even the pastors and church leaders are like that as well. There's still church leaders like that today.
The church can't be perfect because it's full of imperfect people. Like, God chose us to be the church, and it's in every denomination because of free will, and it doesn't make it right, but it does happen.
Just because we're Christian, that shouldn't make it an excuse to continue in our sin.
Like Paul says, we are no longer bound by our sinful nature.
Christ will always make you find a way out. Again, we're led by the Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is not just it's a person who is Jesus. He is the advocate of Jesus Christ.
But if someone has hurt you, please consider coming back to the church, because you need to be grounded in something. Yes, having a relationship with God, great. Follow God first before anything else, and, like, have discernment on what you follow. But being rooted with other Christians helps you.
Being in a grounded support group, that's what literally the church is. It's a support group.
Go to a Bible study. You're literally reading the Word of God. You want a better relationship with God. Someone else in that group might read it away and get something they got from it, and you never got it that way. By the time this video's up, we're gonna have had, like, a 3-week break from uploading. That is because, like, it's been finals and all that stuff happening. By the time this is up, it should be summer break for me.
In the month of May, a lot of things are happening.
We'll make a separate video. Me and Dustin have something very big coming, and you guys should stay tuned for the next video, because we have an announcement to make. It's pretty exciting. But that's all we can say about it.
So, love you guys.
Oh, you love them?
Yeah, I love them.
You're such a sweetheart. Ben. Noggin. Dude. Bye, guys.
Bye.